Welcome, Drink Less, Feel Fresh podcast family, viewers and listeners. Tom Cartwright, founder of Drink Less, Feel Fresh. Welcome to episode 5 of the Drink Less, Feel Fresh podcast. Very eager and excited to dive into this one with you today, team, as we're diving into one of the most common problems associated when it comes to changing a relationship with alcohol, which is dealing with other people. It's not a problem that's so much, it is related to yourself, but it's as much directly related with other people too. So if you've ever wanted to change your relationship with alcohol, if you've ever wanted to learn to drink a little bit less alcohol, yet you struggle or seem to find it difficult in social situations meaning, there's more than 2 or more people, then this podcast is going to be right up your alley. It's going to be short, sharp, punchy, and you will walk away with a heap of value and key insights into human behavior so that you can feel that you can make some more choices leading into the festive season, not only change your relationship with alcohol, but ultimately do it from a place of calmness and confidence. I'll say it one more time. I'm Tom Cartwright, founder of Drink Less, Feel Fresh. If you're new to the podcast series or you're watching and listening for the very first time, welcome to the show. I can't wait to rock out with you. Thank you for trusting us to serve you and to rock out together on these Feel Fresh Mondays podcast series. If you're not watching this live and you are watching the recording, that is fantastic. However, did just want to let you know that you can register and show up to these calls live to engage with both myself and Nat Hodges. The incredibly talented head of behavioral design at Drink Less, Feel Fresh, Nat Hodges, may be joining us very shortly. However, it's pretty excited. We don't normally start the podcast like this, but I will let you know the reason why Nat Hodges may be joining us shortly is because he's actually mentoring 70 Drink Less, Feel Fresh members through a 5-day detox challenge that we run in our mentoring Drink Less, Feel Fresh mastermind community. If you want to know more about that, I know it's a little plug nice and early on in the podcast. You've only just started listening, but I am going to let you know because of the situation. Then you can just head to drinklessfeelfresh.com, check out our membership area, and feel free to become a member if you'd like the chance at joining in on monthly 3, 5, and 7-day detoxes. Might be right up your alley. In saying that, welcome to the podcast. We're about to dive into it. These podcasts are actually recorded live, hence why Nat might be joining us very shortly because he is currently running another course right now for the next 5 or so minutes. So he might be with us. If not, you're stuck with me. I'm excited about that. Some of you might rather be rocking out with Nat. So I'll do my best to entertain, to educate, inspire, and ultimately help you solve some problems or provide some key insights and learnings, as I said, so you can start drinking less and feeling fresh. Today, we are diving into peer pressure and the common theme of how to manage other people's expectations of you, how to say no to alcohol if someone else is pressuring you to drink alcohol, how to go to your upcoming potential festive season staff Christmas party, or spend a night with your partner, or spend some time or a lunch with some friends, and how do you stick to commitments when there's pressure for you to be drinking? It is one of the most common problems when it comes to changing your relationship with alcohol. Nathaniel and I run the Drink Less, Feel Fresh membership community, where we have hundreds of individuals asking us questions every week on strategizing and how to change your relationship with alcohol. And this one is by far one of the most common, which is, what do I do at this upcoming Christmas party? What do I do at the Melbourne Cup? What do I do on my birthday? What do I do on New Year's Eve? And the question is so often linked to, what do I really do when I'm with a bunch of people that are influencing me to drink, or they don't necessarily, just support and back the idea that either we're not drinking much, maybe it's the idea that we're going to leave the event early, or maybe it's the idea that we're not drinking at all. And how do we look after it? And so that kind of falls under the traditional term of peer pressure. What is peer pressure? And it's not only a common theme for our Drink Less, Feel Fresh members, it's actually something that social groups, especially in Australia, if you're in Australia listening to this, massively want to know. And the reason why we know that is we've had a couple of media outlet companies and advertising agencies, social media agencies, I should say, reach out to us lately to get our insights into peer pressure. So it's not just within the Drink Less, Feel Fresh community. It's not just reserved for individuals that want to change their relationship with alcohol. But as you can tell, it's something that's very, very common across the board. You'll see me, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see my eyes hovering around. So I'll do my best to talk directly with you. For those of you that are listening and watching this on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast series. However, I may be accessing the chat panel, because if you're listening to this live, you can jump into the chat panel or the Q&A panel and ask us live questions, and we'll dive into them if they're really relevant to others as well. So peer pressure. Understanding the dynamic of peer pressure, what it is, where it's derived from, and ultimately the purpose of peer pressure can dramatically help you change your relationship with alcohol and feel more calm and confident in social situations. In fact, the incredibly talented Nathaniel Hodges might be joining us right now. I'm going to throw Nat under the bus. I was getting excited. I thought I was going to have you all to myself today for a private, intimate, one-to-many conversation and podcast, so to speak. But I got to bring him on the call because he's an absolute legend. Please bear with us for 30 seconds as we bring, not even 10 seconds, as we bring the incredibly talented Nat Hodges on the call. Nat, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, sir, mate. There was no way I was going to let you do this alone. I had to get that done.
Mate, I was just getting into it. I was just about to get into Super Saiyan Goku phase and dive into one of my favorite topics, which is peer pressure and how to handle the tribe. But in saying that, Nat, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, mate. Good. How are you?
I'm very well. How did I was just letting the viewers and the audience know that we don't usually do this, but there was a bit of I was letting them know about the Feel Fresh community because they actually are aware that this recording is live and you were just mentoring 60 to 70 people through day one of a detox challenge. How was that first call?
Yeah. Cracker. It was so high energy. It was great. It's nice and early. People were fired up. So it's good. They got 4 days of learning coming back to back. I think it's going to be a good one.
Love it. Fantastic. In saying that, mate, we'll keep rocking and rolling because there's a few members that have been listening to this and a few listeners that have been listening. Nat, we've just hit the ground. We just opened up the floodgates for solving one of the most common problems when it comes to changing a relationship with alcohol.
The tribe.
Which is
the tribe.
The tribe.
The animal.
The animal tribe. Specifically that peer pressure. And I was just about to let the audience know, and you and I had a conversation on this about 3 weeks ago, which is actually to understand peer pressure, you actually first need to understand how tribes work. Do you remember that conversation we had?
Absolutely.
Wasn't that an interesting view on it? You can get so caught up in the peer pressure and the dynamic of like, it's me and why can't I handle them?
Yeah.
But if you take a step back and you understand how tribes work, it can be massively beneficial. Do you want to take the reins on that?
It's part of the course. It's how it goes. That's what you got to remember I think the first thing to think of with peer pressure is that people take it personally. Peer pressure is the least personal thing out there. It's a collective mind. It's not one mind against you. I want you to drink. That's how the tribe works. It's got to be all in. Everyone just wants to be all in. It's actually not. And necessarily, it's only negative. It only feels negative when people take it personally. It's that person versus me. It's not at all. Every single time you've got that hive mind happening, there's a sharing of the space where the more you can go all in on the one behavior, the more unified the tribe is.
Which is probably what speeds up this podcast really, like, to something that's really important that we're going to get to, which is when you keep saying that term, everyone wants to be all in. Would I be accurate in suggesting another term for that would be we all just want to feel connected?
Exactly right. Yeah.
So, Nat, can I, like, for some of the viewers that are listening to this that may be new to the Drink Less Feel Fresh journey or new to human behavior or understanding a bit of psychology, I think it might be really important for us to share with people that one of the fundamental core human needs, really, at such a deep level, is to feel connected, right? To feel connected to ourselves, to feel connected to where we're going, to feel connected to our past, to feel connected to the moment.
Everything.
There we go. Everything. And it is that connection that drives people to congregate and socialize and spend time together, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely. It's necessary. It's how it goes.
It's necessary. The problem becomes a problem, and this is what I'm excited to talk about today. The problem becomes a problem.
Oh, when there's many, Tommy, and there's many.
Yeah, there's many. When that connection is no longer being met the way that you want it to be met. There's still connection, but it may be being met in a way that you don't want it to be met. As an example, we're connecting, but I don't want to be connecting with a high alcohol intake.
Yes.
And that's important for people to understand that, like, tribes and social groups are formed by individuals connecting. And a way to keep that connection intact and solid is that individuals don't challenge the status quo, don't rock the boat, so to speak. Don't rock the boat. They, as it's called, it's a group, isn't it? It's, what did you say earlier? It's no longer personal, which it's going to sound really sad, but I want to say it. It's almost like a piece of your individuality is actually stripped back. It's not as necessary for you to be all of you anymore. You just need to be all of you to the extent that the tribe will accept you and support you, and you'll feel like you fit in.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens when someone's in a tribe, they're in a social group, they feel connected, and they go, I don't really want to connect this way anymore?
Yeah.
What does someone do, Nat, when they're experiencing that?
Well, firstly, I think we've got to get a little bit precise. It's that they actually do want to connect that way, just minus the booze. So all connection essentially leads to the same place, which is a free and open expression of who I am as it comes up in the moment. That's the best place we can be. Now, if you think about the Australian drinking culture in that tribe, what in terms of through the lens of connection, here's what it looks like. You got a bunch of people who are pretty wound up in the week. They're just doing what they got to do, because on the weekend, that's when they can use the environment and the booze and that whole scene to connect. So what it looks like to me is that's a necessary stimulus to be able to connect. Necessary stimulus being lots of people, booze, music, whatever you want to do, where you can finally go, I can finally express. Now, some people need that. Some people need that environment, especially in today's world, to do that. Once you grow and mature, you don't need the trimmings to get right to the meat of what you want. You can go right there.
Excuse me. I would challenge everybody to listening to just ask themselves this question then. And this can be really confronting sometimes, but if you're experiencing a problem over and over again, it's because you're not looking at it a certain way. And the way that you're looking at it and viewing it is causing the problem to remain. So a new perspective, a new insight, just a new level of awareness can create all the difference. And something that you might want to ask yourself and check in is kind of this. Okay, is peer pressure the issue? Is not being able to say no to the issue? Or is the issue, I'm starved of connection? And if I'm starved of connection, I'm going to demand that I get it wherever I can. Insert drinking culture. I think that's such a big shift for people to understand, is that, and actually I'm going to just jump in here, Nat, and kind of interrupt where we're going, because I think it's really important for us to share this definition that you and I spoke about a few weeks ago, which was really clear. We both kind of said, wow, we've really nailed that on the head. That's really easy for people to understand. And this is it. Peer pressure is when an individual within a social group, so one individual within a group of people, meaning two or more people are present, when one individual decides to challenge the status quo and act on or behave in a way that isn't generally the social standard of the group.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty clear and simple. Everybody's rocking out together, and then one individual decides to act on a thought. This is the thing. Most people in the group have the thought, no one acts on it. So like the thought to leave the party early, the thought to leave before the New Year's Eve fireworks go off, the thought to not drink, the thought to like not have that tequila shot, the thought to drive instead of get an Uber. Like
those
this is what's key. So many people in the social group are thinking similar things, but often there's one individual that goes, I'm going to act on it. And peer pressure, listeners, is when one individual decides to act on it. And what happens, as Nat clarified, that the core need within the group is to be connected. So when one individual acts on the thought to be different, it snaps the connection and scares the hell out of everybody.
Everyone just goes,
yeah, what's going on? And here's why. Try this on. I thought about this the other day, Nat. I think it scares the group dramatically, because if everybody acted that individual and unique, the tribe would actually collapse. It wouldn't. It wouldn't exist to the extent that it exists. It would reform, so to speak. We could have that conversation at a later date. But for today's call, it would collapse. It'll disappear. What's the need for a tribe if everybody's free to always make their own decisions? Where's the similarity? Where's the traits? Where's the thing that we always get to talk about?
Oh, Tommy, this is a cracker. It's so good.
And I think, Nat, it's one of my favorite topics, the dynamics, the deep dynamics of not human beings just as individuals, but how we operate as a collective. I think it's incredibly fascinating to understand that it is the similar traits, it is the similar topics of conversation, it is similarity that creates likability that forms connection. And so when
thin connection, thin connection.
Very well said, because there's different levels of connection, thin connection.
Yeah.
And that's what's caused connection. So getting back to the definition that I was talking about is that if one individual decides to challenge the status quo and leave, like, oh, just do something different, I'm going to be unique, the tribe will fear and feel that fear of like, oh, the connection's going away.
Yeah.
Now, however that tribe, let me know how I'm doing here, Nat, because I would love you to jump in if you need.
Crushing it.
Depending on how that tribe connect will determine how they solve the problem of disconnection. So,
nice.
you know where I'm going with this. So, if a tribe connects through alcohol, right? Alcohol's providing the similarity between the individuals, which causes the likability between individuals that forms the connection. So, if one person goes let's say it's New Year's Eve or Christmas lunch, everyone's drinking, and one person goes, I've had enough alcohol today. I feel like I'm going to go to the gym in the morning.
Yep.
The only way the tribe will know how to save the connection is to do the thing that they connect through, which sounds like this. I'm not drinking anymore. I've had enough. I'm actually going to leave the event soon. Insert the rebuttal of, which is the psychology of peer pressure, which is, no, don't do that. Please don't do the thing you're about to do. Come back and do our thing. We don't say that. We just say something like, don't worry about it. I'll get you a shot. I'll just harden up, have a beer. Don't worry, leave the car. Don't be a pussy. Leave the car.
I'll drive you. You can walk 10Ks, then get an Uber, and then we can always figure out a way where you can stay.
Yeah, there we go. Or the really derogatory, the really unfortunate one is, what, are you pregnant? Like, pregnancy is the only valid reason and excuse not to be drinking. But these are all the things that we hear. So how'd I do there, Nat? Because I'm very passionate about this topic.
Absolutely crushed it. I think, Tommy, what I'd really like to jump in here is the opposite. What does a social group look like that can crush a social drinking dynamic? And I think I got an answer. You got to go?
I'm going to add to your answer from a concept that I created this morning.
Great. I'll go nice and quick. Guys, when you have a social group that's very, very, that's wrong. When you've got a social group that's connected, mature individuals, what happens is when you're in a friendship group like that, you're so committed to the friendship group well beyond any single individual behavior, well beyond that. So when you go out together, when you go out in a really solid, established group of friends, everyone knows, hey, we're going out to have some drinks. Drinking changes everything. So if anyone needs to go, you get up and you get out of here because we just want you to be happy. So that is what it feels like to be in a friendship group that is not peer pressure in the drinking culture, when there is a lot of choice and freedoms. You go out with your mates, you have a good time. And if anyone needs to go or do something, you support them in that immediately. Because there's no need, the connection's already made. The connection is not based on who stays the longest, who drinks. The connection is already established.
Got it. Already established. So that'll look after what we spoke about 10 minutes ago, which is we're either starving of connection or our connection is established.
Exactly.
And if our connection is established, there's no need to scare someone out from being unique.
Exactly.
And we need to create a visual cue and slide on that.
They can be totally unique in the group and totally into the peer feeling of it all and connecting. And then as soon as they want to be an individual and get out of there and do something, the whole group goes, yep. And we all swing around. And that's what we're doing now. Like the group supports, it's the total opposite dynamic.
I will still add to that, I think. I was thinking about the podcast this morning, as I do. I'm a thinker, Nat'll back that. I love thought. I just do. Like, it can be the best thing ever. It can be the worst thing ever. It always creeps me out. That's great. Here's something that is paramount to understand. if you don't understand it, you'll fight against the laws of physics, the laws of life, whatever you want to call it, which is we all desire connection and we don't want to be starved of connection. So someone saying, I never want to feel peer pressure, it's probably an unrealistic expectation. The first step you probably want to ask yourself is, am I being peer pressured out of myself and what I want to achieve, or am I being peer pressured into what I want to achieve? Because I've also been a part of a group, which is what got me out of the Australian drinking culture, who would peer pressure me out of the behaviors. Isn't that interesting? So it's not about, I don't think it's always about not experiencing peer pressure. It's just about knowing, does the tribe and community have your best interests at heart or your lowest interests at heart?
Yeah, or they just want you to be there so they can have their needs,
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. Because I remember, I don't know about you, Nat, but I gravitated towards two groups to get me out of groups that weren't serving me. But guess what?
Yeah.
They actually still peer pressured me, but it was different. It sounded like this. The first group I was in, it sounded like this. Oh, I think I'm not drinking tonight. And it'll just be met with, that's not you, Tommy. You're party boy, Tommy. Have drinks, blah, blah. Oh,
party boy.
So I was being peer pressured into being a version of myself that I hated. I'm not passing responsibility. I'm just sharing how social groups work. And then I joined a group who I would say, hey, anyone want to go out for drinks tonight? And then group would turn around and be like, no, we've actually got this swimming class that we all do 6 a.m. Actually, I'm thinking about a real group. This actually happened. Why don't you come to that? And I'm going, okay.
God, you should have seen Tommy's face then. Like, what madness are you talking about?
Yeah. And so I joined a personal social group that would lift me up because I'm still starving of connection. So now I've got two desires or two avenues to meet my need for connection. I think that's a perfect starting place for people as well, is to realize, hang on a second, it's not about not being peer pressure. That's a great goal to know how to socialize. Like, for example, Nat, I can say to you, hey, Nat, you want to go out for dinner tonight? And I could be like really wanting to go out to dinner with Nat. Nat can just, happens all the time. Nat will just be like, I'm good. And that's all I need to hear. Like, I'm good. There's no need to justify it. It's living that unique, independent lifestyle where Nat can speak how he wants. I don't get offended. Then there's resentment building up, which is like how tribes work. So if you're listening to this and you're going, you know what, I do need connection. I love connection. It's important to feel connected. Then just ask yourself that question: is my current tribe lifting me up or pulling me down? And those are just the terms that we've got access to understand this really clearly. Is my tribe pulling me up or lifting me down? And your tribe will either, I love that, Nat. That comment you just posted through there. If you're listening to this a recording of this team, we are live right now recording. So head to drinklessfeelfresh.com and you'll be able to register and show up to these calls in future live. Little plug there. So that's a great way to start this conversation. Is my tribe currently lifting me up or pulling me down? And understanding that, as Nat said, peer pressure is the least personal thing out there. It's the most social behavioral trait that you can ever see, which means it has so much to do with other people than it just does with yourself.
And it's so powerful. Like, it's so powerful. It's so not easy to say no to peer pressure. It is so hard. Like, it's so hard. It's not, I just can't stress it enough.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good finishing point to leave with that level of, because I just felt so much compassion in you, Nat, and I just felt it too. I'm like, oh, you know what, it is hard. And what I'm personally sick and freaking tired of, Nat, is hearing people say this: why can't you just say no?
Oh my God.
Why can't you just say no?
I can think of 12 reasons off the top of my head why it's so dumb to say no.
Yeah, because you're not saying no to alcohol. You're saying no to connection, which means you're saying no to a primitive form of life.
Deep
human need to be connected and loved and supported and acknowledged and feel like you're special and you matter.
Yeah.
I think that's how. Is that probably a good space to leave it?
I know it's a little. Of course. Well, I mean, I think it's good to leave in the fact that, like, if you pay attention to yourself and really watch yourself and learn how you like to be connected with and what you like to do. So I don't connect in a bar out. That's not my place of connection. It can be fun sometimes, but that's not my place of connection. At home with mates over, midday, early afternoon, that is a place of connection because we can talk and we can share and we can, it's so learn in the environments and the way you like to connect. Well, some people like to connect and dance. Some people, I like to connect and talk and understand people, so there's different variants of connection and where you get it from. And that's a really fun discovery. That's an incredibly fun discovery to figure out how you connect. How do you feel most connected? Because then you can manage your experience.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how there's different ways to connect. Like you're talking about the location, right? Like where and how do you like to connect?
Yeah,
like, I'm ticking
absolutely.
Boxes. What came up for me when you were saying that too is also a behavioral kind of energy trait, which is I used to connect through likability. And I worked with an incredible mentor about 2016, okay, 7 years ago, time flies, 6-7 years ago. And he pointed out to me, he goes, Tommy, you connect through likability. And I was like, yeah, I love it. And then he just looked at me, he said, well, you should start connecting through respect instead.
Nice.
And it was like a slap across the face, but just understanding that, I was like, oh, so Nat's saying that he may have used to connect in bars, but he's not into that. It's like, no, I don't want to connect there. And I realized, I used to connect through likability to the sacrifice of respect. So when you're talking about bars, I don't care where I am. Physical location doesn't bother me too much. What does bother me is I don't like to connect in environments where there's like an ongoing individual is trying to influence me out of just being myself. It took me years to acknowledge that. I love connecting through respect. Like that's what's great. Like I can say to you, you want to go to dinner? And if you're like, no, if you're living from a place of self-respect, something in me is like, oh, and I'm connecting with that.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's perfect, Tommy. That's perfect. When you go the likability play, you leave the door open for being totally inauthentic. Because
that's how we're going to finish the podcast. Do not be inauthentic.
Yeah, it's so easy to be, when you want to be liked, it's so easy to change who you are to become liked in the moment. You can't change who you are and be respected. Impossible.
Say that one more time.
If you want to being liked is really easy. You can change yourself on the surface. Really, really easy to be liked in that moment, to be liked, accepted, and connected with. But you can't ever be truly, truly connected with and respected through changing who you are all the time. It doesn't make sense.
So what's the biggest benefit, or are you about to say, what's the biggest benefit of going down the path of being respected?
What's the biggest benefit? The biggest benefit. Is that with enough time, you'll be the most trusted person in the room.
There we go. You nailed it. And that's that is it. And trust is also can be used as another language for deep levels of connection.
Deep levels of connection. Deep levels of connection.
Deep levels of connection.
Keep going. They keep going.
Now, we could talk all day on this topic, so I reckon we wrap it up there. So I think it's a beautiful. We've never done this before, Nat. Can we open this, end this call, this podcast with an invitation to everybody to approach their journey this time of year through challenging themselves to respect themselves enough to be an individual and to be unique, no matter how challenging it might be.
No matter how challenging, and it will get challenging, but from my experience in history, you've got to. It's the only way through. It's the only way through. It's a great journey.
And if it's too challenging on your own, then join a community that'll lift you up when it gets too hard.
Yeah. And says, just go for it.
Viewers, thank you so much for rocking out with us. As we said a couple of times during the podcast, you can rock out with us live. Head to drinklessfeelfresh.com. You can register for these calls in advance. They're every Monday, 8 a.m. at the moment, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. You can rock out with us. There's been a couple of people on this call dropping in comments and feedback in the chat panel. Otherwise, if you're listening to the recording, keep an eye out for next week's podcast as we dive into all things drinking less and feeling fresh. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, or you can actually head to YouTube to the Drink Less Feel Fresh channel if you want to watch the video. Thanks so much, Nat. Love that call, mate.
No worries. Yeah, that was great. See you guys.
Bye.